Hi, Mr. Bhuwan. Thank you so much for accepting for allowing us to interview you. We just have a few questions about your life back in Bhutan, and now that you're here in the U.S., we want to know your experiences. Um, so we're glad that you're here.
Sure, I was born in Bhutan, a tiny Himalayan country, which is sandwiched between China and India. And I was born in a quite a remote area in a southern Bhutan. That's why we are called Lord Sampas, southern Bhutanese. It's a little off from the city, and life there is really rural area. So growing up there, I remember my childhood days with my neighbors and friends. Still, they are everywhere in all parts of the world, but quite very far from the cities and school districts. So I lived in a refugee camp for about 15 and a half years because when I became refugee in 2000, I became refugee actually in 1992 along with my parents, and then I was young that time. I was around 8 years old, and my entire life was spent in a refugee camp. And getting back to your question of how it was living in a refugee camp, it was really difficult situation living in a refugee camp because you will not have enough to live and then eat, and then the school system is available was available but only up to 10th grade, which was sponsored by Caritas Nepal, Caritas, other humanitarian organizations. But lack of medical facilities, there was no access to medical care, mental health care, and very basic amount of food ration is provided by the United Nations for High Commissioner for Refugees. That's what they call UNHCR, and world. And there are other organizations, supporting organizations, but it's as compared to the U.S. life, there are lots of problem in the refugee camp. I remember early in 2000, not in 2000, 1992, lots of people were getting sick. There was a public health epidemics, and people were dying of the malnourishment, malnutrition, and also diarrhea, cholera, malaria. All kind of issues came up before there was infrastructure in the refugee camp. Even after the infrastructure was established, we did have to go through a lot in terms of getting education and the care, and as compared to whatever happens to outside world, and to the children of my age that time. So I remember walking barefoot and without having to go and use, because there are no any other facilities. Like, people do ask me what are the how do the refugee camp huts look like, and sometimes I pull up the internet, and so, and it's like very basic makeshift bamboo house, 20 15 by 20 square foot size, where there are no bedrooms and there is no running water, and you have to go to the river to take a shower, and every day is not possible. You have to wait until 7 days to do that, and it's a lot to tell in this interview for an hour, but I will be more than happy to answer you these questions in our next interview.
So just a follow-up question. So could you just expand a little bit on education? You said that it was provided only for people after 10th.
No, up to the 10th grade.
Oh, up to the 10th.
Yes, that's for free. The instruction is in English medium. However, not as perfect as this country, because the teachers are from within the refugee camps. They are not trained, and they don't even have to go to school to do masters or PhD to teach. It's like utilizing the volunteer capacity within the refugee camp, and the standard of education was a little bit lower as compared to the European and American system of education, but that's what was available, and I did go through the refugee camp school up to 10th grade, and I had someone. I got lucky that someone helped me to get into my bachelor's degree, and I'm here now. I traveled to United States because, as I said, that I became a refugee, and my first priority, and not only mine, but entire refugees' first priority was to go back to Bhutan, which is we call repatriation. Repatriation did not happen despite several rounds of bilateral talk between Bhutan and Nepal. There were no any tangible result, and Bhutan, in fact, did not want to acknowledge or recognize that we were Bhutanese. In fact, they have forfeited and taken back all our citizenship rights, and they said that we were, Bhutan still says that these are the economic immigrants from Nepal. They came long time ago and they were trying to settle here, and we are no longer responsible for these people, which we were around 100,000 people who became refugees at that time from the southern Bhutanese who we spoke Nepali and practiced Hinduism, where because the Bhutan government evicted that 1/6 of its population, entire population, based on the ethnic cleansing policy, and they were deprived of their fundamental rights of religion and a right to press and publicity, because many people started protest for their fundamental rights. They would take them to the jail, nail, torture, and there are horrible stories behind that, which is really nowadays Bhutan still claims the notion of gross national happiness, while people are not aware about the plight of 100 and over 100,000 Bhutanese refugees. But coming the thing is that even we had no idea about coming to this country until 2007, because it was never talked, and I didn't even think that I would be coming to this country, because refugee coming to this country, this is not something you think about. You can have dream about these things, but that's not merely possible for us. But in 2007, the after so many bilateral talks were failed, and Bhutan did not want to take us back, and Nepal, on the other hand, did not want to assimilate us. And fortunately, the U.S. government said, okay, so we are going to resettle 60,000 Bhutanese refugees, and that became the ray of hope for the refugees who were living in a limbo for that long period of time. And I was the one in the first group of the refugees applying, because you have to apply before you come here, and you have to go through all sorts of screening processes, they call vetting processes, make sure that you are qualified to come, and you have the background checks. Department of Homeland Security and counter-terrorism interviews happen right there in and with the Nepal government. And I applied and I came, and after 3 months of time I had my family members joined, and since then I have been living in the Springfield, the great city of Springfield, and that's quite a journey to explain in one sentence.
Yeah.
There were lots of fear and anxiety, I can tell there, because the thing is that I had never traveled outside the world. In fact, coming to the United States was that was the first time I took a plane. And the orientation they do give for 3 days before you come. They call cultural orientation, but that's not enough for you to spend your life in a new country. And for me, my fear was, even though I had my bachelor's degree, I was really worried about if I would be able to get a job in the US, because the English we spoke and the education we had in the refugee camp was not that strong enough for us to compete with the American people here. And 2008 was the time there was a recession in this country, and we also used to hear from other people that getting job was very, very hard in this country unless you are really good at, which came to true at some point, because I did have a lot of problem getting into job, and no matter how many places I went, and I was always declined. Also for my family, for me the cultural shock was not happening because I did have the understanding about the culture, Western culture, and I was exposed to the college and friends. But for my parents, the fear was that what if I have no temple to go? What if I have no people who I talk to and who, because the fear was Bhutan kicked us because of the based on the religion and culture, and what if the United States again kicks us, and then where can we go? Those things were prevalent among most, including my parents. I have been here, living here for almost a decade now, starting from 2008. I feel it's a great place to live, and the thing I'm grateful is that the whole community is here with me. And after I came in 2008, I was the first a lot of people coming, and I was in fact the fifth family. Now we have over 3,500 Bhutanese resettled in these places. And I have not only developed myself in this area, but also developed the entire community. So we have been able to do great things here. I can tell that we have our community members opening up the businesses. They have become true entrepreneurs to this place. Local businesses, stores, and so many people are becoming the U.S. citizen through naturalization process. And they are contributing to this local economy. And I can tell that living in Massachusetts is a great Massachusetts is a great place and a great state because we refugees were not able to go to school because we were always deprived of getting there. First, the government did not want us to live in that country. They kicked us out. And second, in the refugee camp, even though we wanted to go to school, we were really having difficulty because of the access to the education and healthcare. Everything was really difficult for us, which was something that we never got an opportunity. Here, we have everything. We have a community, we have a good government, and we have been able to maintain very good relationship with the local policymakers and universities. For example, UMass Amherst, we have been working with Dr. Chu, who is helping us to navigate through the civic engagement pieces, because what we refugee communities felt was like we were always stagnant and always somehow disconnected with the local government. And with the help of Dr. Chu, we were able to have a series of meetings with the Springfield City Mayor. And in fact, we had an event yesterday, which was community we try to do multicultural, but the whole theme was for the cross-cultural event where Asian American communities participated. And in that event, our Mayor Sarno, he did send the letter of proclamation declaring that day was a Bhutanese Society of Western Massachusetts Day, and that kind of words from the mayor really brings the community together. The reason is that we refugee communities were always treated bad by the government, and there was a fear from the government. Any authority people, they would not be able to believe that. And in fact, in addition to the mayor, we also had the Congressman Richard Neal come to our event, and he was very happy to see the communities doing great and looking at our performance at the cultural event. He did encourage us to go to school and contribute to this economy, citing back to the history of how this country was developed and a contribution of the immigrants and Asian Americans to this country is really great. Living situation in for the first time I came was really funny, because I remember that when I came to the Bradley International Airport here, I had no idea where I was going to be sleeping at that night. I was really tired. It was like 18 hours flight from Nepal to this country, and someone comes to the airport and says, "Welcome to the United States. You are going to be tonight. You are going to be living with someone else's Nepali family, and you are going to have dinner with them. And tomorrow we will see you at the office." I had no idea. I was very grateful that I got rid of the refugee camp. That's it, right? Life becomes good. I'm here finally. So there was a long wait. So, and I realized that I was given only $428 a month to live. And that $428 was not sufficient enough for me to pay off my expenses. I ended up living with an American family, and that American family helped me to navigate into the American system, which I had no idea. I didn't even know where I would get the groceries. It was challenging, even though I was an educated person. It was really hard for me. There are so many difficult moments that I went through in the initial phases. But eventually, as I got help from the other community members, as well as the Refugee Resettlement Agency, did the great job in helping me to orient and make sure that I understand the resources available to this community. And I didn't take that long time. In fact, I started helping other people, and I myself started working at the refugee resettlement. I became a case manager, and I started helping other people, folks coming from my country. So, and it's a quite interesting journey. Starting off with a scary thing, but eventually, if you I got to know those resources and was able to help my own community members. And still, till now, I have been involved with my community, which is really a good thing. I would say that education is really important for not only refugees but everybody. But for refugees, I think that's only the thing that you bring along with you wherever you go, because we had citizenships, we had land, we had property, everything. That was meaningless when you have to run away in your emergency situations. But what the government, what other people cannot take away is the education. That you have something that you carry and then you bring it to wherever you go. That's what happened to me. That's what happened to other Bhutanese refugees. I did tell that the level of the education was not that competitive as compared to this country. However, what each and every refugee was able to bring was that education. And they have been able to do so well with that education and then integrating into this mainstream educational system, and they are able to promote that and do well. So, answering your question about what did I study was I had my bachelor's degree in business studies from Nepal. When I came here, transferring credits and all became like a process which was new for me, and I did that. And then my involvement with the community also, I was really interested in contributing to the communities rather than doing the business. Some of the friends, they do business, which is really great thing, but for me, because I was involved so much helping other people, I thought this is a good cause to help people. And I did my second bachelor's degree at the Western New England College, liberal arts program. And during that time, up to that time, I was also really interested in developing the community, as I mentioned earlier. How do you develop the community and reach out to the mainstream community and to promote the true integration, because we needed that and we still need that. I wanted to study my MPA, Master's in Public Administration, and the local colleges available for me was Westfield State. And I went there, I did my MPA, and not only I studied that MPA, I was also able to develop the whole community into a 501c3 nonprofit, and started really working with the mainstream community, including what I found was that if we needed to do so much of we needed to bring out so much of universities and then local colleges and students and the faculties and researchers, so that they will be able to assess what's been available in the community. Because what happened was that we might say that, oh, we'll have this and that problem in our community, but there was no any data for us to present it. So with the help of UMass and Harvard School of Public Health, now we also have relationship with Boston College. We are trying to bring different kind of interventions, design the interventions by studying our population, and the whole philosophy is trying to engage the community members in the research process so that they are also empowered, trained, and then they become our resources. And we have really good models working out in our communities through the Harvard School of Public Health, that we have community-based participatory research, and the outcome was designing the interventions, and the interventionists and the research assistants are from the community, and they are trained, and then they go to the community, and they have the modules and the curriculum that is put together, and they go and help our community members with different kind of topics that were identified. And I think this is really important, which was not available back in the refugee camp. Here we are trying to really dig into that, and the hope is that there are so many resiliencies and so many strength-based interventions that we are able to tap, and they are happening. So, and without the education, I would not have done that. And so many students are going to the colleges and universities now. In the refugee camps, it was not possible for them. In fact, we had two siblings from the same house who got full ride Bill Gates and Melinda Foundation, and they are now coming back to the community. And so many youths are going and doing so great in the education. So I feel like Massachusetts is one of the best states in the world, which has got like world-class universities, and I'm so proud that myself and my community members are here and take the advantage of it. There are so many cultural things that we practice, and we just did one yesterday, because what happened was we come here, and then unlike in our countries, we don't have like lots of temples around here, and traditions that we used to do. It's really difficult in the mainstream community. It's not that hard for me. I mean, I'm mostly exposed, but for my parents, it's really hard because the closest temple is in Connecticut or Agawam, which they would love to go there every day, and it's hard here. It's not possible. Also, the children are so busy, and they are with they go to their job or school, and our parents, they are illiterate in their own language, and there's nothing coming up in the TV. There is no newspaper written in Nepali language. And if they have any rituals that they wanted to perform, it's in fact very hard for them to find a priest. And those are some of the challenges. But the tradition wise, we tried to do these cultural events, annual cultural events, just like yesterday we did one. We had like around 200 people coming together. It was a public event supported by Mass Cultural Council and other individual donors and community members. But one of the really challenges, the topmost challenge that our parents they say is my son and my grandchildren, they are now American. They are telling that if you don't speak Nepali, then you are American. That's how they say. And children, yet they spend a lot of time in their school and daycare, and sometimes it's really hard for the parents to expect what they expected before, given where they are grown up. I do have a daughter. She's 11 months now. My expectation is that I would like to make her bilingual. I would like to try to involve her in those kind of charity and giving back and tracing back to the history of how we came. I might take her back to Nepal and India and other places, so that she will be able to see the rest of the world. The Bhutanese government really adopted the ethnic cleansing policy, depriving the Nepali ethnicity in early 1990s. That's how they evicted more than 1/6 of its population. And because the majority of the southern Bhutanese, they practice Hinduism and spoke Nepali. And when the government restricts everything, it's really difficult for the people to practice that, because you have to hide to practice your faith. That's really scary. And that's what happened to my parents there. Luckily in Nepal, because everything is similar in Nepal we have so many temples and then practices which there were no any restrictions. We were pretty much assimilated, not in terms of the real assimilation, but in terms of the religious practices and all. And here in this country it's challenging. However, there is a freedom, people can exercise, and I know that I have heard that so many Bhutanese people are becoming successful and they are building up their own temples. They are looking for the plots and they build their temples, which is a really good thing to hear. I think religion. I have to tell that I'm not very religious person. However, I think that religion shapes the person's life. I'm a Hindu, and I believe in karma. If you do the right thing now today, you'll not have to repent in your life, and keep on doing the good thing. Believe in yourself. There are some of the texts I do sometimes read, like Bhagavad Gita. Those other text scriptures which gives you the wisdom. And also that teaches the whole thing of how to supervise your children. How do you talk with other people? I don't have to go to parenting school classes and all if I follow my religious books and texts and all, respecting the seniors, and that's the basic philosophy of the life. I think religion plays a really important role, along with the tradition and culture and the values you bring to be a successful person, and not only be a successful person for yourself, but also helping, guiding, and being the role model in your community, if not for the whole nation. We have mostly the universities and research institutions partnering with us. As I have mentioned, that we started off a long time ago with Harvard School of Public Health. We want, because the thing is that people started come to this country, and so many people started dying. They started hanging, and the CDC published report that the suicide rate among the Bhutanese refugees was twice likely the national average of this country. And research institutions also, they found they wanted to help us, and we collaborated with them. And as I mentioned, how we work, it's really working with us, including the research institutions like Harvard, UMass, Boston College. We do have other community-based organizations that we meet and share our best practices, and we have very good relationship with the Western Mass Refugee Consortium here. We meet here, and school department, police. Now we have been trying to reach out with the congressmen and senators and city officials, so that the government officials also know what's happening in their area. And there are some policy issues that we continue to advocate, because what we have realized is that if we do not bring up those things, they may not be aware of what's happening. And with the help of researchers, with the help of professors, the community leaders, and other stakeholders, it's a really we are really fortunate to have gotten those guidances and help for us to enable us to bring out our problem. And then the whole hope is that to solve, if we have ever encountered, if we have some issues in our communities, and integrate into this mainstream community as fast as possible. The reason is that unlike other immigrants, Bhutanese refugees have no place to go back. Sometimes people do have misconceptions about refugees and immigrants. Let me clarify here, taking this opportunity. Immigrants can go back to their countries and contribute to their socio-economic development of their countries. Refugees, they cannot, because the government would not accept them to go back. I cannot go back to Bhutan, even though if I applied, they would have the discretion to reject my visa. In fact, so many people were rejected. They would not be able. I have nothing in Bhutan. I have nothing in Nepal. I was a refugee. I became citizen of this country by naturalization. I am a naturalized US citizen. That means whatever I do, it would be for this country. And I have no places to go. I have no second chances to go. So, that's why refugees really have to integrate into this community, because they have no other choices. And I always feel like we are fortunate, because one thing is that we don't have option. The second thing is that we never thought of coming here, and then everything is happening, and that happened for the reason, and we have to be great all the time. And I'm so grateful for the community of the work they do and the greatness they bring. And we cherish those kind of moments and happinesses and then success stories. Sure, they have played huge role. First of all, without the university professors trying to study the problem, we would not be able to present those findings to the policymakers and to the local government. The researchers, they play really a great role in terms of bringing out the data, scientific data. With the help of those data, we will be able to design interventions to address our problem. And the students, particularly, because each university professor works with the students, and students are really important and powerful in terms of training our community members and helping them to become the researchers, research assistants. They collaborate the process. It's a collaborative process, not like one university coming and then they are going back with their finding and publishing, but also really working with the community members in a holistic way. And each of you who come from different universities, not only from the research perspective, also from volunteering perspective also, we get lots of questions and interest in our website. People come and ask students from UMass and other areas how they would like to contribute, and some of them, for example, as simple as I can say that one of the Amherst College student was asking me if she could help me to revamp our website. That's really a good thing for us, because we wanted to engage and we want to make our website quite engaging. And then she was studying some kind of digital technology, and then we really want this kind of students coming and try to help. There are so many areas they could work with us, but sometimes we did not know how to get hold of them, and then they didn't know, because if we never existed, even though if we existed and then they would not find us, that was the problem. But with the help of that website thing and the social media, now we are getting to know that the interest rate has been becoming really interesting, and growing number of students are coming and showing their interest, and we would really like to work with the students so that they will help us to design and develop some of the programs, and we will be more than happy to work with their faculties. There are along with the success stories, they do have challenges. For example, the English language acquisition is not something that happens overnight, even though they try really hard. I would say that language barrier has become really a huge problem, because if a person has never been to school all their life and they are in their 60s and 70s, and then the requirement to become the US citizen is like you have to remember, you have to pass the US history and civic test to be able to continue getting your benefits, and that's becoming really scary for them. anxious. I know that the younger generation, 40s, 50s, and 60s, they sometimes they work hard and they have been becoming citizen by studying and passing those tests. But that group of people who may have had serious of mental health problem back in Bhutan, they are really having difficulty. I know that there are some waivers available. They are taking advantage of that, but not everyone will be able to qualify that. The second is the health problems and the mental health problem. Imagine someone being jailed for like a decade. They were beaten up, tortured, raped by the authorities in Bhutan, and these people never had any kind of treatment, any form of treatments in the refugee camp for that 20 years, 25 years time. And then all of a sudden they are coming here, and then they started getting this Western medicine treatment so rapid fast, which has become overwhelming for them. And also because of the language barrier, even though the services are available, health services are available, healthcare is available, the translation becomes the issue. Even though they have a Nepali interpreter along with the doctor, not everything will be translated. There are so many cultural pieces that's lost in the translation. So I would say that language barrier and is a huge issue, and also the employment is also a problem, because people may have done good job, or they have had the history of working back in Bhutan. They lost they have the like 20 years of gap in their job history, and then they come here and they have to really be smart to get a job in this country. And mismatch of expectation is a really hard thing, which I had when I came to this country. And everybody, all people who come to this country, they will have this kind of challenges. And other issues, other challenges. There are so many other challenges Bhutanese people face, but I would say that there are more successes than challenges. Those challenges will be overcome in a period of time, but as a community whole, we have more successes than challenges. So obviously other challenges was the intergenerational gap, and when the parents come here, the role has been reversed. Wives were able to stay in the home, and then husbands were the sort of breadwinners. And because of the role reversal, and children spend most of their time in school, and then in the daycare, and then parents are home, and then there is a huge communication problem here. So just to answer your question, we have been trying to implement some of our educational pieces. As I mentioned, that with the help of the university, we were able to identify some of the problems and then prioritize them, and then develop the interventions. And our community members work with the university, and they go to the families and teach those families how to improve the communications. And there are lots of modules they use that. There are like 10, 12 topics they go through, each of them, like budgeting, finance, communication, parenting skills, and they evaluate. This is kind of research thing, but besides the research thing, we do have weekly gatherings, weekly meeting. Our community members, they do the weekly kirtans and bhajans. That's really important for them to reduce the social isolation. They have a group of people, like 20, 30 people. They meet in their community members' homes. They rotate. And also some of the educational pieces happening in those communities for all. Not much done. I would say that I wish we had the space to meet. And we do not have any big space like this. I wish we had this space where community members would come, and we would like to engage them, but the resources has always been challenging. But we have been trying to raise our voices, and we have been trying to go to different levels and different places, and try to bring up our problems, hoping that if there are any resources, if there are any old buildings, we would, and the city would like to give us some of these spaces, we would be more than happy to set up office or at least some community hall. And we have been able to go to West Springfield City Mayor and put the proposal, and we have been to City Mayor Springfield, and they are very positive. And in fact, we went to our Governor Charlie Baker's office, and Patrick Carnival listened to us, and he was very supportive that he wanted us to develop something in terms of education. Education is a good thing that you asked me, because that is only the hope and the key for us to unlock the potentialities and bring changes in our community. So. I hope that the Bhutanese community will be able to sustain itself without relying on others, donors, and will be able to give back to the communities as fast as possible. So many people have become business owners, and then they are starting to give back to the community. And I hope that our Bhutanese refugee communities will no longer be refugees, identified as refugees. Let there be no words or tag called refugee. Let them become all U.S. citizen, and then let them become the success stories. And I would say that I hope that this community will be able to be an example to the other community, refugee communities in the world, that I have hope, being a Bhutanese refugee, that I want to see my community become successful as fast as possible, and then people in the colleges and the university will say that look at this Bhutanese communities, how fast it integrated, and look at what's happening. I hope some of our community members would be able to join the government offices, and they become the policymakers, and then they will be able to understand better to address and help those refugees and immigrants in this country.
Lastly, what are your thoughts about Bhutan in the 21st century?
Bhutan is a great country. My thought is that whatever happened in the past, that happened, and Bhutan has to really welcome these resettled Bhutanese who have become the successful naturalized U.S. citizens, and open up opportunities like other countries like India and Nepal have given. Because I know that they still claim that these are economic immigrants, which is not true, because we do have the copies. My parents do have the copies of citizenship, and the world knows, the U.S. government knows that these were Bhutan government kicked these people. And I hope that the new leadership, new generation, new government will be able to do some kind of reconciliation approaches and give opportunities for non-resident Bhutanese, just like non-resident Indian or Nepalis, so that they will have an opportunity to invest and then develop the Bhutan and maintain a good relationship with the tiny Himalayan countries. I know that Bhutan is a really good country. In fact, I heard that the state of California is trying to replicate the GNH, gross national happiness, and it's such a beautiful country. But that didn't work with us. However, we are very hopeful that the Bhutan government will be able to take back whatever the remaining refugees in the refugee camp. There are a chunk of people, like 5,000, 6,000 people still remaining in the refugee camp. They wanted to go back. They still want to go back to Bhutan. I hope Bhutan will be able to take these people and give the justification at least by repatriating the remaining people, if they could not do for the whole 120,000 people.
Mr. Gautam, it was great interviewing you. Thank you so much for your time. It was great listening to your experiences. And yeah,
thank you so much for asking me these questions. And if you have anything, you can always follow up with the questions later. Thank you.